Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Stuka Podcast about everything Stuka. I'm Julia, your host, and I am excited to guide you through the vibrant world of one of the most unique student music festivals around. In this episode, we'll talk about what being a Stukafest volunteer entails, their experiences during the festival, and the unique perspective they gain from helping bring it all to life. Since Noah and Heiko no longer live in Groningen, these interviews were recorded online, which might affect the sound quality a bit, but trust me, the stories they share are well worth it. So grab your headphones, settle in, and let's get started. I hope you're gonna enjoy this one. Hello, Noah. Today we're recording with you online. Thank you so much for doing this with us. And without further ado, let's start with the first question for today. So, can you introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved with Stukafest in the first place?
Yeah, sure. I'm Noah. I'm 25 years old now. I started in Groningen for like 3 years at the Hansa. I studied physiotherapy. And I think my first very contact with Stukafest was in my second year when one of my football colleagues asked me if I want to go to Stukafest. But I think that year I wasn't able to go. But my friend and my other best friend, William, they both went and they had a really nice time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only until my third year when I had proper contact, which was due to my girlfriend Rachel joining Stukafest. So she was a member of the board,
Oh.
and her three best friends, Maroon, Asif, and Melanie, were also part of the board. So I was heavily involved in
Mhm.
taking care of of the stress
Yeah.
and looking after them and helping now and then. Like I was helping putting up posters in the city. And I also got all of my friends to buy tickets, of course. And then at the very end, I even offered to host one of the concerts at my apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, usually the volunteering in Stukafest is just at the day of the festival, but you were involved throughout the whole process of it, which is crazy cool. So, you didn't go to the festival before you actually volunteered? That was your first experience?
Yes. So,
Okay.
what motivated me? I think like I like music, of course.
Yeah.
And I also really enjoy concerts and in general, I really like how students organize events like these in Groningen. Like I think it's very unique to the city,
Yeah.
and I really wanted to be part of that. And I think it's not really. I mean, it's a day or two of preparing like the venue and organizing everything, but it gives you so much because you have so many people coming over, you have live music at your own apartment and the after party, of course.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So, could you tell us a little bit about how it looks as a host of the location? So, when the preparations for the concert starts, is it on the day of the festival? Is it the day before the festival? How this process looks like?
Well, I think it started with a meeting with all of the other hosts a
Hmm.
few days or weeks before the actual event. And then we had a little briefing about what's going to happen. And then in the following days before the festival, we got in touch with all the audio guys because you have guys coming over, putting up all the speakers, checking the audio,
Yeah.
wiring the whole stuff. And but that only took a few hours, and I helped them, of course, and it wasn't too much. And then on the day of the whole thing, the guys from Stukafest come over, see if everything's all right. The artists come over, and you prepare. Like for me, I had to move a lot of furniture around to fit all the artists and all the people. That only took like a few hours. And yeah, I also prepared some food for like all the guests and I bought a lot of beers to serve there because we could also sell some beers and I sold the food. And yeah,
Yeah, great. And could I ask you, do you remember what performance was happening at your place that day?
to be honest, I don't really know the name anymore.
Okay.
Uh, it wasn't an artist name like a catchy one. It was like his actual name. No, it was two guys. One guy singing with a guitar, and the other guy was doing some. I think it's called reverb. Like he was doing some funky stuff with audio and with his piano and doing some echoes and stuff. It was more chill and they were really, really nice.
Okay, very cool. So, my next question to you would be, did you have any particular memorable tasks or challenges during the festival? Like, is there anything that really stuck with you in your mind when you're thinking about Stukafest?
Well, yeah, maybe two things. My girlfriend and Neva, her friends, so like Saif, Melanie, and Maruna, and just the day before the festival, they got so stressed that they needed my help to put up all these posters in the city, and I remember doing that for them. That was really funny. Stressing around the city, putting up the posters everywhere, and but then on the day of the festival, I remember with my co-host Tony, who's my roommate at that time, just being really nervous beforehand and then getting more and more confident after every act because they repeat their show 3 times throughout the night,
Yeah,
the artists.
that's right.
And after the first one, all the nervousness was gone, and we had a few beers. And on the nicest moment of the night was at the very last time they performed, so the third time. All of my friends from class came over, and it was basically just me, Tony, my roommate, and all of the people from my class and the artists. So that was really, really nice. That
Yeah.
was really memorable.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned it, I wanted to ask you, as a person that was, let's say, sitting at the location during the Stukafest festival, like, could you say that the atmosphere of the dynamic of the room changed in any way between the acts? Because you've seen the same performance 3 times in one day. So could you say, is there any difference before the first go through of the concert and the last one? Of course, you said that the third was the most meaningful to you, but would you say this is also the case on the artist side of things, that there's a little bit different energy every single time they perform the same performance?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it changes vastly. I think that's probably due to, like I mentioned, the nervousness of like the first act,
Yeah.
but also I think due to the audience, because I remember the artist performing was university professor.
Oh, was it Corain?
Yeah, it was Conor.
Oh my god, I also been there. I've
Also,
been
you've
there.
been to my apartment.
Yeah. I've been in the second round, I think. Oh, it was great. It was like such a cozy vibe. I loved it. And you had like a fairy light. It was so beautiful.
No, we made a big effort.
Yeah, 100%.
Just wanted to say that for the second act, a lot of his students came.
Yeah.
So I think for him that was also very special. And so I think he was very happy with the second act. And then also with the third act, I think he realized that all of the people coming are my friends. So it was also very nice for him.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, yeah, the first one he was nervous about, and then the second one and the third one where I stood to the people was very special.
And did you have any chance to interact with the artists during the event? Because you said like you prepared a little bit of food, but did you had also like time to just chit chat with them?
Yeah, so I think they came over like 2 hours before the festival or something like that. And at that time, I was still preparing the summer rolls. I made Vietnamese summer rolls for everyone. And then he helped me prepare them, and we had a chat about everything.
Yeah.
We talked about his music. He asked me what I'm doing. I'm like, there's not too much to tell him. Uh, but yeah, I think he was a really, really nice guy and his friend as well. But no, it was really nice. And also, of course, Groningen is really small. So I met Cora in like a few days, a few times in the city after that. So it was really nice seeing him again.
Yeah, of course. That's so lovely to hear. And did you see any other acts that year? Did you go to after party after the concert at your place, or was it enough for you for that day?
No, of course I went to the after party.
Let's go.
What do you mean?
And how was it?
It was great. So at that point, I was pretty drunk. We didn't sell all the beers, and as I mentioned, the last leg was with my friends. So we finished all the beers after, and we went to the after party. And I think we came a bit late,
Yeah.
and the band performing was really, really nice. I think maybe you know them. They were like all wearing suits and ties.
Yeah, the historian. Oh my god, that was a great addition. I was just curious, like, were you the volunteer last year or 2 years ago? And it's so great because this was actually my first Stukafest, the one that we're talking about right now. So it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And it was great. It was great. The historian played, and it was fantastic concert. They were just a perfect act for like a closing of the whole festival. I really enjoyed that as well.
they were amazing.
Yeah. And how did you feel seeing the festival come together after all the preparation? Like, what emotions you felt after, seeing this whole thing coming together?
I was extremely proud of the girls
Yeah.
because I saw on first hand how much effort they put into it and how nerve-wracking it was to the very end.
Yeah.
Of course, that was one reason why I was more invested than probably the normal participant or normal volunteer. But seeing it all come together was really, really great. And I was really proud of them. And I was really proud to be a member of the whole thing as well.
Yeah. Supportive boyfriend and supportive volunteer. This is amazing. And now I want to ask you like a little bit more dreamy question, let's say. Like, if you could think of any genre or artist that you would love to perform at Stukafest, who would it be for you?
Mm, like, I wouldn't want a big artist because I think it should be something for the students and something for the city. But I think I always thought that, but maybe there's a good reason why it hasn't been so far. But I think like electronic music or like a techno would be really nice.
Yeah.
Like, I think, for example, in my room, it would have been possible to have like a techno guy in there because there would have been enough space, and I think I wouldn't have any problems with the neighbors. So I think in the future, maybe a techno act would be really nice.
I can see that. That's a very nice answer. And how has volunteering at Stukafest influenced your appreciation for music or live performances?
Um, I don't know if it really changed my appreciation for music.
Yeah.
Maybe seeing how much goes into it changed a bit, like how much effort it is to put something like that together, the audio, the speakers, organizing everything. I think it changed more about my perception of organizing an event like that, more than the actual appreciation for music.
Yeah, 100%. And have you discovered any new artists for festival that you now follow, maybe?
Um, Not really, because I had two friends also being artists at the festival. So my friend Yuri, I think his crew was called Magoya. No, not Magoya,
Matoya.
Matoya, yeah. So I was following them a bit before and I wasn't able to watch their performance, but I think helping them to perform there because I was the one setting them up there because they didn't actually have place in the first hand to perform because the festival and the lineup was already full.
Yeah.
Then I convinced the girls to maybe give him a chance as well. So that was really nice. And I think everybody here should check them out.
Yeah, perfect. And what's something about being a Stukafest volunteer that might surprise people? Is there anything that you think someone that didn't do this job would be surprised to find out?
I think when considering if you should host, I think it seems like much more work than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really that much work, and I think it pays off massively because it's maybe a day of work, but then also work isn't really work because you get to see live music, you have all your friends with you probably, and it's a really good memory to have and a really good story to tell as well.
And how does the festival's format, I mean, using student rooms as stages, impacts the experience for both audience and volunteers, in your opinion?
I think it's so cool. I think on one hand, it's really cool because I think like most of us, I'm a really nosy person, so it's really cool to see how people live.
Yeah.
Go like to different apartments. And I think most of the apartments of the Stukafest are really cool apartments because they have to be big enough to host an artist and the people. So you get to see really cool artists, and I think it's just a really cozy vibe because it's quite small. You're really close to the artists, and it gives something very personal.
Yeah, I fully agree. And what did you learn from your experience as a volunteer at Stukafest?
That it's very rewarding and it's totally worth it to participate in cultural events as an artist or as an organizer or as a volunteer.
And my last question to you for today, if you could volunteer again next year, is there anything that you would like to do differently or try next time?
Not really. I think
Perfect experience.
maybe something easier than summer rose. I think that was a big thing. I think I underestimated how long it would take me, but it was actually something nice to make because everybody could chip in and help me. One person cut the carrots, one person cut the mangoes.
I think when I came, like I saw like you had some leftovers. And we were asking people like, do they still want some because you have more? And it was like so sweet. It was so cool. Really, I really remember that concert of Conine at your place. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing this interview. That were all of my questions for today. Thank you so much for doing this. And I don't know what you're up to, but I hope to see you at this year's Stukafest.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hello, Heiko. How are you today?
Hi. Yeah, good to be here. I'm doing very well.
Could you maybe introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved with Stukafest in the first place?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Heiko. I did study international relations in Groningen. I already left. I'm now living in Berlin doing my master's. And yeah, I remember a year ago, Leonie, she was a former board member and a good friend of mine. And she asked me if I would be interested in becoming a host, yeah, together with my housemate. And yeah, that's how I got into it.
Yeah, and what motivated you to volunteer for the festival? What was your connection to the board or something else as well?
Yeah, funnily enough, in the board, in last year's board, there were two people who did study with me international relations. It was the chair, Maruna, and Leonie. And therefore, well, I already got asked for it, and then I got super excited. And I also know a friend who was host 2 years ago, and I just heard good things about it. So I became very excited to become also part of the Stukafest and contributing our room, to the festival and becoming a part of it.
And have you been involved in similar events like that before, or was Stukafest your first experience with organizing a music event?
Within Stuka, I was not involved, but I was part of the festival committee at USFA, the Cultural Association of the university. And there we organized the Lazarus Festival, which was a one-day festival at the Noorderplantsoen 2 years ago. That was first experience with organizing a music arts festival. Yeah. And that was very interesting, having been in the committee who organized that festival, which was a lot of work, obviously. But then it was also a nice experience to then be part of Stukafest in a more small role, in this case, having been a host. Yeah. The workload was obviously a bit different, and I was not involved in the organization as you are now.
Yeah, of course. And do you remember what performance were you hosting at your place that year?
Yeah, we had Heinefon, which is a small music collective from Groningen, and they use soundtrack, or they are playing live instrumental music to silent movies. So this is what they've been doing for, I think, 4 or 5 years. Very small group, but super interesting. And that's also something what I liked about Stukafest, specifically last year's edition, where you had different performances. You had from arts to music, rap, drag show, and our very own group we hosted. It was very diverse in terms of participants.
Yeah. Yeah, this is overall something that we try to stress at Stukafest, that big part of it is music, but it's not only music. And that's very nice that you had the opportunity to have a little bit of a different experience than the previous volunteer that I was speaking with, who hosted a music act, which is very great. And
that's super nice, right? Because it also, the artists should also match the room and should match the host. And yes. I think this combined is something which is super interesting to do.
And could you tell me, what was your role as a volunteer at Stukafest? What exactly did it involve that you had to do as a volunteer and as a host?
I remember like the very first meeting was together with Elena and Octavia from the board, who coordinated the rooms. And then they first came to our place. Yeah, they had a first look if it's meeting the requirements in terms of size and so on. So that was just to check out, okay, where are we located in the city center and beyond the city center? How approachable is it? How reachable is it from all the other locations? So that was the first check. And once that was set, it was their part of trying to allocate an artist to our place. And again, matching our size, matching our vibe and so on. So that was the very first part. And after that, we haven't been engaged in anything for some weeks, till the moment where we got more information about the artists and the logistics.
Yeah.
And I remember 2 days before we got a week before the event, we got like a big list of what to expect in terms of logistics, instruments, and so on, and what to expect. Yeah, then it was just about preparing, getting the room ready, and trying to sort out things where the band could be, where the visitors could be, and how we want to set up the room. So that was everything we had to do before. And then obviously it was the day itself. And there was like a lot of different things we had to do. But that was everything we had to do prior to the meeting. But which was also nice because we always had the possibility to ask either Elena and Octavia from the board. But we also had some meetings scheduled with all the other volunteers where we were able to ask our questions and get some more information.
Yeah, so it's good that it's in some. This is something that I actually didn't know. So like there is some kind of a preparation for volunteers beforehand. So like it's not that everything last minute, everything crazy, but there is like a lot of logistics in it. Good to hear. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, of course, on the day itself, like all you plan, let's put it that way. We had kind of an idea where to, for example, place the band, where to have our big couch moved to, and the other things. But then on the day itself, once the band arrived, we figured, okay, it might be nice if they could stay somewhere else. And we just rearranged the room settings. But that's something you have to do the last minute, right? Because you never really know how things are developed and what's matching and whatnot. But there's definitely like a lot to do before in terms of logistics. But then, everything works out perfectly.
And do you have any particular memorable task or challenge during the festival that you remember? Like, was there something that stuck in your head that you had to do as a volunteer?
I mean, the day itself was very busy because the day before we had to rearrange the room. We had to get the instruments and other things from the board, but also from the music group. But on the day itself, I mean, I was not the only volunteer, right? So I did it together with my housemate, Leonie, and also a friend of her friend Dana helped us. We were 3 people in total, which was super helpful and needed. And then we had some tasks division. For example, Dana was responsible for cooking for us and the music group. And then the day itself, Leonie and I, we prepared the room because we just knew where things need to go and so on. And then during the evening, for example, I was responsible to welcome the visitors, and Leonie and Dana waited outside, scanning the QR code and guiding the people to our room. And we also set up a bar, which was super nice in the kitchen. So I was also behind the bar selling some beers and wine. And it's more than just preparing and then waiting for people to come, but there's so much more. But then on doing the event itself or doing the show, you can really enjoy yourself and you can take a moment and breathe for a second, have a sip of your drink and just enjoy the music and the vibe with the people and the group.
Yeah, so maybe smoothly from that, I will go to my second question about what is your favorite memory of being a volunteer at Stukafest? What is the thing that really caught your attention and you fondly remember from that experience?
I mean, let's be honest. How nice is it to have your own living room concert live at your place? I think that's I mean, I always wanted to have something similar. Having all my friends over and having like our favorite music group playing for us live in our living room. And that's something I always thought about. And then having heard about Stukafest and having been able to become a host was an opportunity where I was like, okay, that's something I really want to do. And together with my housemate, Leonie, it was super nice that she was also super excited about doing this and organizing this. So the most memorable moment was definitely the fact that there was like a match from the very moment with the music collective. And it was Renee and Sebastian who were part of that music collective playing at our place. Mm-hmm. And That was super nice because we bounded very, very well from the very beginning. And that's something I really like to remember from that evening, just the vibe at our place. Also, the visitors were it was just a very good atmosphere because everything was matching. And I think that's nothing you can necessarily take for granted, but you have to do for something. It needs to match, right? And that was something I just enjoy to remember when thinking back about Stukafest and the experience and the role of having been a host.
Yeah. And you mentioned it a little bit, so I guess you did had the opportunity to speak to the artist, but could you tell me like how does it look like? Because it's very cozy and camera in a sense, but like before the concert or in between the concerts, like how the interactions with the artist look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question because that's something also the board stresses out very much because it's super important that you also get a chance to get to know the artist who's actually at your place for that evening. And I think therefore it's very important that you get a chance to meet them. And what is part of the day, of the actual day of the festival is, again, around noon, the band arrives.
Mm-hmm.
And then they set up their things, the instruments and whatever they are needed, that the important logistics are done at around 3 or 4. Then they can have like a first trial session. And the most important moment is then when we have dinner. So before the festival opens and all the visitors are coming, we have the moment where we share a dinner together. I think that was a very important moment to really get to know them, to talk to them, to really get to know each other. And that was a very good moment and something that was extremely important also for the rest of the evening, that you really know who are the people at your apartment, at your place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I really enjoyed as well.
And were you able to attend Stukafest outside of this experience? Like, did you ever have an opportunity to go to the festival on your own as an attendee, or also in the year that you were hosting, maybe you had the opportunity to also go to after party afterwards?
Yeah. So on that evening, obviously not. It was not possible to go to other shows because you really had to be at your place because, again, there are like 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
People coming in and doing the show. But then obviously we had the possibility of going to the after party on that same evening, which we, however, did not do because we were like super tired and we just stayed for a couple of more beers together with Renee and Sebastian, and we just had some beers at our place and just re-evaluated the evening, just had some beers and talked a bit. So that was something we enjoyed a bit more because we were just super tired. And there's a possibility of going to the after party. But also before that, like in other years, I was not attending Stukafest. But to be fair, there was also Corona for a very long time.
Yeah.
When they began with it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then back then I did not join as a participant or visitor, which I really regret because now I'm not living in Groningen anymore. And I think the other perspective of choosing 3 different shows at that evening, I think it's something super nice.
Yeah. And how did it feel seeing the festival come together after all the preparation? Like, what was the atmosphere apart from you chatting with everybody? But what was the atmosphere? Like, were you a little bit stressed or were you completely chill and like hyped up for the evening? How was it?
I must say, organization was extremely well from both last year's board, but also from our side. So we all worked together very well. And I think that's an important base you need. So you need approachable board members. We also had like an assigned board member to our particular evening, right? And I think that's something very important. And they also showed up before and during the evening, but also together with my co-hosts, Leonie and Dana, communication was extremely important. So everything worked out very well. Obviously, there's some excitement building up to the moment that the first visitor is coming to your place. And that's something I think everyone is getting excited. Does everything work out with the QR code, them finding our place, and that we can also begin in time? It's also something very important. Yes. We have enough space and all those things, because you can plan a lot, but then reaching the moment that everything has to work out, that's something else, right? But in our case, everything worked out, and yeah, things just got more exciting throughout the evening. But then again, you see the show 3 times in a row. Excitement did not decrease. Instead, it increased every time because new people came in
Yeah.
Sometimes René and Sebastian changed a few things depending on the crowd. Yeah, that was super interesting.
Yeah, that was also the question that I wanted to ask you. Like, how was it to see the same performance or the same act 3 times in a row? Like, were there any changes? Was it the same? And like, how did it feel to see the same thing 3 times on your side? Like, was it like, you could have seen something more each time? Like, how was it?
I think for that, it's important that the listeners actually know what René and Sebastian played at my place. So as I said earlier, it is a music collective and they are playing live to silent movies. So they had a guitar, drums, keyboard, singing bowls, and some singing in between. And the actual plan was a cooperation with the Groningen archives. However, due to technical, I think, last minute issues, that did not work out, that they were able to use the archived footages from Groningen. So what they did instead, they used archived footage from the United States, and they used archived footage, both pictures and video material, showing a road trip in California, 1960.
Okay.
To that, they played live instrumental music, and that was extremely powerful, I would say. And that's what I also thought and felt throughout the 3 times I watched it. It was extremely powerful because, you have to imagine you see these archived footage from more than 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Somewhere in California, Interstate 5, Disneyland in Santa Ana, Los Angeles, national parks. And it's been such a long time, but them playing live in the background was such a good atmosphere and really, somehow magical, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's something I really enjoyed. And I didn't get tired after watching it or listening to it 3 times in a row. It got even better every time.
Damn, I wish I was there. I unfortunately didn't see this performance.
Did you attend Stukafest?
Yeah. I was attending last year and the 2 years before, but as an attendee. So yeah, I've seen a lot of music acts, and last year from like not music acts, I've been to storytelling
Cool.
performance, which was very, very nice. And I started with it, which was also great because it was like, my first round, like kind of starting with storytelling and then going to like crazy concerts. It was great. But yeah, this sounds very nice, and I'm very sad that I couldn't see this. But this is the problem of Stukafest. Like, there's so many performances that you never know what to pick. And sometimes things that you wanted to see are already sold out and you cannot see it anymore because, there's like a limited capacity of the spaces as well. So
exactly.
it's crazy.
What to expect? Like, we really didn't know what to expect from Kind to Phone. Like, from the description, we had an idea, but we really didn't really know what to expect till the very beginning when they did their first trial session. And as you said, there's so many great shows to choose from. I think it's quite difficult to choose from, but also in the right pace. Beginning with something more chill, and then probably, either way, ending with the after party, but then having a good
build up. Yeah. At after party, everybody goes crazy. Like, it's you haven't been there, but it's like such a euphoric moment. Like, after, like, when all the crew is coming and like they can also ease off at the end of the night. It's like so great, and everybody's so happy, and the atmosphere is so great. I love it. But I also wanted to ask you about a little bit behind the scenes insights. So, do you have any like behind the scenes story or a moment that most people wouldn't know about from your year?
From like the evening itself?
Yes.
What I enjoyed the most, the moments in between the movements of people, right? So you have different 3 different rounds on that evening. And what I really enjoyed the most, those 15 minutes in between people are leaving and new people are coming, and where you have like, specifically after the very first moment, we came together with René and Sebastian. We talked, okay, what went good, what went wrong, what can we improve for the next round, but also just having a break, having a sip of our drink, having a moment to talk, to debrief, and just see how next round is going. And those in-between conversations I enjoyed the most because, that was just a moment for us to, again, to reflect a bit on the things and also building up new excitement for the new rounds of people and a new round of the show.
Yeah, this is also very nice that you mentioned it. Like, it's so cool that they also asked, like, the artist asked you for your feedback. This is
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, so I think you were also like had a very great artist at your place in the sense of like they were very open for talking with you guys and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, super important as well.
Yeah. And what's something about being a Stukafest volunteer that might surprise people?
I mean, it might not surprise people, but I think that's something you have to be ready for, that you offer your room, right? Your living room, or depending on what your living situation is. And as I said earlier, with huge excitement, that you open up your place and you host a live band or live artist or live show at your very own place. And that's something you really need to feel comfortable with, first of all. Also, random people you don't know coming to your place. And that's something I was afraid the most, even though I was super excited.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, that's something you should not worry about, because the crowd was just super nice. People who signed up for that specific show really came because they were as excited as we were. But I think that's something you really need to be aware about.
I have a couple more questions for you. I wanted to ask you about how does the festival's format, so the using of the rooms, students' rooms as stages, impacts the experience for both the audience and volunteers, in your opinion? Do you like this format? Like what it brings to do it this way?
I mean, that's also pretty much the idea and uniqueness of the Stukafest. Specifically in a city as Groningen. Groningen is such a student city, and having this kind of format really brings people together. And what I really liked the most about our evening, I cannot generalize it to the other shows, but our crowd was extremely diverse. I really expected only students at our place, but in the end of the day, it was extremely diverse. We had young professionals, we had students, we had families. It was very diversified. This is really also the idea of the festival, bringing the people together in the Groningen. I think we need these kind of formats, and you really try to approach a wide range of people, but also with the idea of, hey, Groningen is not only made up by students, there's much more. And I think, that's something I appreciated the most from that evening at our place, but also from the former Stukafest.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like a general information for all of our listeners. That of course Stukafest is happening in Groningen, but it's a overall Dutch festival, so it's happening in other cities. But I can definitely agree with you that I think in Groningen this format works very very well on how like compact the city is, and that everybody can like really come together because the size of the city is not overwhelming, and you can actually move around the city and find another location in those 15 minutes, and it's like so easy and just very very chill, which I think works very well in Groningen as well.
That's also what I now miss the most now living in Berlin. The reachability or the walkability of what I got used to in Groningen.
Yes,
It took me like less than 15 minutes to go anywhere in the city,
exactly.
which is a pity. But anyway, and that these kind of formats, as you said earlier, of course, it's happening also in Utrecht and Leiden, Amsterdam, so on. Case of Groningen, it is very unique just because of what the city is and who the city is.
Now I wanted to ask you a little bit more reflective questions about Stukafest and your experience. So I wanted to ask, what do you think you learn from this experience with volunteering at Stukafest?
Again, for us, it was a very good evening, so I would do it again. But I think the learning experience is definitely, and that's something I talked a bit about earlier, having some fear of opening up your place to someone you do not know, right? Because you cannot really control the crowd. You do not know who's signing up, who to expect. I mean, that was a fear we had at the very beginning. Okay, what's the crowd? But that's something to definitely, be a bit more chill about, let's say, because those who participate and sign up and are attendees at Stukafest are really people who are interested in the artists in the group and really appreciate you as a host for offering your place throughout the evening, throughout the 3 different rounds. And in each round, there were approximately, or on average, 20 people.
Yeah.
I only heard good things and appreciating words towards us as a host for volunteering and doing this and opening up our place. And having some fears, I think fair enough to have that. I think that's also important, not to be too naive or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In the end of the day, hey, this is really a festival aimed to people who are really into that as well and also are appreciating. So in the end of the day, the experience was worth it. And yeah, because again, like both Leonie and I, we like to be a host, but when it comes to friends or whatever, but again, opening up your place to people you do not know, that's that's a next level, so to speak.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you just said, because I, as an audience member, never really realized this, but it's completely true. Like every single time I come to someone's apartment during Stukafest, like I feel so appreciative about it, because I know that my living conditions could not allow me to do something like this. And I am like, so like it's such a good initiative, and I'm so happy that there are people that like were able to do it. And then I am like so appreciative of it. And like, I really don't want to be a burden, because it's, I just will sit in my corner and be just, having fun, but trying to do it as, politely as possible. Because yeah, I think everybody that comes to Stukafest, knows it's about fun, about listening to music, seeing art, but also know that this is actual people's living spaces and they need to respect that. Yeah, that's true.
What you said is exactly what we received, the appreciation, knowing and appreciating the fact that, hey, that is something you cannot take for granted, opening up your place with everything that comes with it. And also in the end, what we did it for this overall experience, opening our place to the city, right? In other terms. But to those who are interested, sharing that moment of art, that moment of belongingness, and just sharing this together. And that's something very much enjoyable.
Very valuable. And maybe like additional question that just now came up in my mind, because you were able to be a host, did you have any conversation with your neighbors about it? Did you invite your neighbors to come to Stukafest, or you don't have neighbors, it wasn't case for you at all?
That's a very good point, because living conditions and living situations can differ in Groningen for very good reasons. So we had our apartment. Well, again, I'm not living there anymore, but we live in the city center, very close to Fishmarkt and Grote Market, and within their crowd is very different. So in our street, at least, it's very well mixed with students and professionals. And within our apartment, we had 2 different apartments, so 2 direct neighbors, so to speak. And obviously, it's very important to communicate that this event is happening well in advance, not only to your direct neighbors, but at least to an extent that it could influence both them and you, or then being the host at that evening. So we extended the neighbors we contacted and letting know that this is happening. So yeah, depending on your very own room and living situation, that's something to decide then. And then within our apartment, again, we had 2 direct neighbors. And then we also went to them directly and told them that this is happening. Funnily enough, we had a new neighbor who just moved in like a week before. And both we also invited over. In the end, I think they weren't even there at that evening at home. I think they went home to their parents' places. But it was also very nice to getting to know like our very new neighbor, introducing us, but then also saying in the second sentence, "Hey, there's this. Have you heard about that Stukafest?" And I remember one, he's Dutch, so he knew about it. He was from Groningen, and the other girl, I think she was from Finland. So she had no idea what this concept was all about, what this is. She just recently moved to Groningen. So that was interesting for her. But I hope she will join next Stukafest edition in 2025. But again, you know your neighbors, so be very mindful. Also, again, as you said earlier, the shows on that very evening can differ a lot. So we had live instrumental music, which was loud at moments, but also quieter at different moments. But then again, you can have different shows hosting at your place. It really depends. So it's extremely important to be mindful, communicate that this is happening at your place well in advance. And then people are very much, understandable toward the idea of hosting this festival.
Yeah. And my last and final question to you for today would be, if you could volunteer again, is there anything that you would like to do differently, or is there anything that you would like to try to do next time?
I think if there would be a next time, that it would also depend on the living situation.
Yeah.
Or what we had last year, or last year's living situation in that apartment with the music group we hosted, things worked out very well. And again, as I said at the very beginning, it's a matchmaking between you as a host and the music group you are hosting.
Yes.
And last year that worked out very well for all the factors I just explained. And therefore I would do it again, but then it again depends what's the living situation, what are the options, and who are you living with, right? You cannot take it for granted that your housemate, again, I only had one housemate, so that's also something else. But there are like a lot of different factors you need to take into account. But then with all the excitement that comes with it and the uniqueness of hosting this living room concert is something I would not want to miss, and is an experience I would do again.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yes, that's amazing to hear. And thank you, Heiko, so much for doing this with us. I am very happy to hear that you had a great experience with hosting and being a volunteer at Stukafest. And yeah, I know that you're not living in Groningen anymore, but if you all have free time on the 15th of May this year, I hope to
15th
see
of
you
May,
there.
okay.
Yes, that I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for letting us to know your experience, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Cool. Thanks, Julia. Thanks for doing this podcast. And I wish you, but also the board, a lot of success organizing this unique festival in the heart of Groningen. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the Stuka Podcast. A huge thank you to Noah and Heiko for joining us and sharing their incredible stories and experiences as Stukafest volunteers. It's inspiring to hear how much heart and effort goes into making this festival such a unique experience. Don't forget to follow Stukafest Podcast so you're always in the loop for the next episodes. We'll be bringing more stories, insights, and behind-the-scenes moments from everyone who helps make Stukafest happen. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to share more Stuka magic with you next time. See you soon!